Okay, I'll let everyone in.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first Women in Architecture monthly Zoom for AI Florida. And my name is Lourdes Solera, and I am chair of the Women in Architecture Committee for AI Florida. And today we're going to have a discussion about, I called it to be or not to be licensed. But obviously, it's why you should be licensed. But before we get into our panelists and our discussion, I'd like to call it the shameless plug. Here is next month's Women Architecture, which will be Wednesday, the 21st of February. There was a conflict on the last month, so make sure to register. And then AIA Palm Beach, the Women in Architecture group is having a conference, and Denise, who is the chair, is actually on this call. So maybe a little shameless plug, Denise.
Yeah, thank you, Lourdes. Please join us. It promises to be a very exciting conference. Early bird registration prices are available right now, so don't miss this opportunity and please register.
Great, thank you, Denise. So why we're here, why you should get licensed. And I'm going to introduce the panelists in a minute, but first we have 5 wonderful panelists who also happen to be on our committee. And this panel is actually a result of our current president, Rhonda Hammond, saying something about licensure and things like that. And so I thought, well, isn't that convenient? Our committee is filled with all licensed women. Not intentionally, but that's just how it happened. And at different stages of licensure in their careers. And I'm the panelist simply because I was licensed a little bit before they were. I like to tease that I was licensed in the 20th century, and these ladies were licensed in the 21st century. So before I introduce them, I would like to give you some background information. This is from NCARB by the numbers that they issue, I think almost every year, but this is every 2 years, 2022. And they keep track of diversity in the last few years. They're keeping track of that. And of course, there's an increase in who's holding the NCARB numbers. So we have an increase, fortunately, in all the demographics that we're looking at for diversity. And obviously 2 in 5 new architects are women. So that's an improvement. We do get licensed sooner than men do. Average for white and Asian candidates is 12.8 years. Women do it shorter than men. So the population parity is almost there, where 50% of the new record holders are women. And however, the exam completion is not quite there. We're still a little bit number, but it's as I said, 2 out of every 5 women. There's a 4% increase in the number of women that are holding the folders. So it's obviously an improvement. 45% of candidates of color are reporting experience, and 53% of them are testing. And the problem, it's great to do the reporting, but you have to continue, because if you see the last number, only 36% of the candidates are completing the ARE for people of color. So we have to work on those groups. Women continue to have a larger number. They make 25%. No change in color in numbers from 2018. But obviously Hispanic and Latino women have gone up. So they make 7% of the candidates. So it's a 2% increase. Black and African American women has a slight increase, but not really as big as we'd like to see. This is all, you can find all this in NCARB. So they do, and of course I need to move this thing so I can see what it says. Here we go. Let me move it over here. Gender representation improves. So as you can see, 4 years ago, 40%, now we're up to 46%. And the proportion of women taking Latin women taking the exam has gone up. The gender representation has completing the ARE has gone up as well. So it's a 5% increase. The population is more diverse than it used to be. So 10% Hispanic. These are new architects. So let's not, forget it's not everybody in the country or people that are already licensed, but they have those numbers as well. And so there's almost 50% of the population that is involved in profession is women, but not all of them are quite getting licensed yet. But we do it faster than they do it. We do it and it's an awful number to say it, 12.7 years to complete from the minute you graduate to when you pass. We need to do better. And I think that's the problem for men and women, because it's taken men 13.6 years. That's not really an exciting number on either gender. So we really need to do help get those numbers a little bit, not take as long. So now my panelists, and they're going to share their path. Of course, I know these women well, but that doesn't mean I know everything correctly. So our panelists, I said they're also our committee. Rhonda Hammond, AIA, is principal at Hammond Design Group Architects in Tallahassee. They've been in business for 22 years. She went to school at Florida A&M, and she has a master's of sustainable design from the University of Florida. She also serves as an associate professor at FAMU, and she is AIA Florida 2024 president. Denise Bass is from Puerto Rico, and she has been registered in Florida and has over 25 years of experience in architecture and design. She's CEO of Civil Design, and she just founded Green Path LLC. And she enjoys really helping people to determine what are the green building certification goals they want to accomplish. She's an active member of AIA Palm Beach, served as its chapter president in 2018, and she's founder of AIA Palm Beach Committee. And Rhonda is going to work on a committee for Tallahassee. Did I say that out loud? Gloria Cloder, AIA NCARB and CODIA, is an award-winning architect, founder, and CEO of Glow Architects. She's a keynote speaker, best-selling author. She's also an advocate for immigrant architects, women in architecture and motherhood. She is the author of a book called The Architecture of Motherhood and co-author of City Shapers. She's founder of Foreign Architects, serves as the architect licensing advisor for AIA Florida, and is part of the board of directors of the Immigrant Architects Coalition. I don't know how she has time. She served AIA Tampa Bay for several years, where she founded and is the chair of Women Architecture Tampa, and she's now part of our committee. Brooke Godinez, AIA NCARB and CDIQ, is a project manager at Prime AE Group in Pensacola. Another co-founder, we have a lot of co-founders on this group, co-founded AIA Florida Northwest Women in Architecture Group and serves as the committee's co-chair. She was president of AIA Northwest 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. And her work focuses on defense architecture. So she is, when she became a project manager, she was both the youngest and only female project manager on the federal team. Way to go, Brooke. And last but not least is Shadia Jaramillo, AIA, WELL, AP, and NCARB, is a native of Panama, where I was also born, an active member of the AIA Florida Northwest chapter, and co-chair with Brooke and co-founder of the Women in Architecture Committee. She's an architect at Goodwin Mills Haywood, where she is part of all kinds of projects, whether it's aviation, commercial, healthcare, higher education. She's an alumni of the Fay Jones School of Architecture and Design in University of Arkansas, or Arkansas State, one of the two. University of Arkansas, if I remember correctly, right? Where she got her BARC in 2018, and she started her path to licensure. She's our newbie in 2020, and has been helping people become licensed as she was becoming licensed. And she successfully completed it all in March of 2023. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to give the ladies an opportunity to discuss their path. So we're starting it with, why did you choose to become licensed? And Rhonda, as our current president, gets to start the show.
Thank you, Lourdes. And I want to first thank you for considering to discuss this topic. In the last couple of years, traveling around the state with the different board meetings and AIA functions, I ran into several young people, the majority of them women, that talked about their decision to not become licensed. And I was just kind of surprised, because I felt like you were getting to the finish line and then just stopping. And I just feel like there's so many reasons to become licensed. I think this is an important topic. So I hope everyone here gets inspired if you're questioning that final step. But I never separated the two. I always knew the goal was to become licensed, so I never separated it. So there was no question. That's what I was going to do. But so Lourdes, you want us to talk about our experience going
Yes,
through the
yes.
process?
So the kickoff is, why did you choose to become licensed? And then tell us a little bit about maybe your path, right? And how you got there.
Okay.
And then, this is a lot of discussion, and we want to have also an opportunity for questions and answers from people who are on this panel.
Okay,
Licensed
great.
and unlicensed, because I see a lot of names I recognize, so.
So I don't know who all on the call that I have shared my story with, but my last couple years in school, I actually had the last two of my three children. My middle child, I actually backpack around school because I was bound and determined that this was a goal and I wasn't going to delay it. And he's a very social child now, and I think it's because he just hung out in studio and all my classes with me. But so when I graduated and had gotten a job and all the benefits that with healthcare, all those things, I had two small children, three altogether. My husband and I had always talked about opening our own firm. And so I went to him and I said, if we're going to do this, now's the time. Because I worked part-time going through school, and I thought if we ever get accustomed to the two full-time salaries, it'll be harder to go back. So since I have the job, I have the health care and benefits, can cover the children. If we're going to do it, let's do it now, because I know that you can generate at least a part-time salary. So helping my husband launch the business, having a full-time job, and the three children, the two that were pretty small, kind of took up my time. And so I did not, for the first year, consider trying to study and take the test. So in about a year and a half, I decided it was beyond time. And I did take it where it was computerized, Lourdes. I think it was, when it first came out, it was like 9 parts. But I decided to take the one I felt like I was most familiar with to kind of get some confidence built. And I did. It was construction documents. It was one of the multiple choice. And I took that one and passed it because that's all I had done for years. But you felt good about it to get that pass letter. And then just as the children grew, the family, it's like, I may do 1 or 2 a year, but it took me probably a little over 5 years to finish it. And I had to retake the first one because the rolling clock had timed off. But again, it was the one I was most familiar with. But so it was something I had always had planned to do and set out to do it, and then didn't let time or energy discourage me. But it was very much a celebration when I finally get my license. And it's like right on the wall in front of me. So whenever I question, I get to look at it every day.
Awesome.
Yes.
Having to take one a second time that you passed because of the rolling clock. Oh, that's painful. I'm so
The clock
sorry.
no longer applies to Florida.
I know. So that just takes one more barrier away from those people that are working with families.
Yeah,
But
I'll certainly date myself. I took it when it was still filling the bubbles. And it was offered once a year. So as I
yes,
said, I'm dating myself. So
Yes.
that's why you guys are all chatting, because you can relate to the new crowd more than I can. Denise, how about you? Why did you choose to become licensed? And tell us a little bit of your path.
Sure. So I wanted to become, much like Rhonda, to me, it was just the next step in the process. So I always wanted to do it. And to me, it was important because I wanted to be recognized among my peers. And I felt that it would validate my effort. And I wanted to be able to call myself an architect, right? Because you're not supposed to if you're not. I graduated in 97. And I did not start testing until 2004 under ARE 3.1. And I was pretty aggressive with it. I actually took 5 exams in those first 2 years. But then I became pregnant with my son, and he ended up being a preemie, and it was challenging to say the least. And I took a break from testing. I mean, he was the center of my world, and I decided to focus on him, and I kind of became complacent with life. And as time passed, I became pregnant with my second one. But at that same time, NCARB had instituted the rolling clock. It wasn't there before. So that was to me a bit of a wake-up call. I no longer had that open window. I'm glad to hear that it's not an issue anymore. But that pushed me because I had to finish or I would lose those 5 exams I had taken. And at that time, like Rhonda, it was nine exams that I had to take. So here I am, rolling clock, pregnant with my second, and I just said, you know, I need to do this, because then it was going to transition to ARE 4, which would reduce the number of sections to 7, and I would lose some of what I had done. So I was 6 months pregnant when I took my last exam, and I became licensed in 2009. And I still remember to this day that last exam. And when you have a belly and you have to go to the bathroom and the exam timer will not stop for you, I felt very proud of myself that I managed all of that and still got licensed before my second was born. So, yep, that's my story.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I have to say I was not licensed when I took my exams multiple times. I'll admit to it. I was not one of those, and it was once a year, 4 days, given on the same 4 days in the entire country, by the way. So at least you knew all your friends were sharing in your pain. And it was filling the bubble. So I only had to go to the bathroom normal. I was not pregnant. So kudos to you and Rhonda. I've been doing this with children is I'm sure even tougher than you know, many of us have experienced. Miss Gloria, now is your turn. Why did you choose to become licensed? And tell us a little bit about your path.
Thank you, Lourdes, and thank you for having me here. So I am originally from the Dominican Republic, so I didn't study here. I studied back in the Dominican Republic. I finished my bachelor's and my master's back there, and I worked from the very beginning because I couldn't. It's not very usual that you will get a student loan there. So, and then my mom and dad were divorced, so I only had my mom. So we didn't have I just remember when I told my mom I wanted to study architecture, and like the poor scene was just like, do you really want, like, is there anything else? Because it's just like an expensive, you spend a lot of money in, materials and all that. So I had to work from the very beginning to pay all the bills and everything. And then that meant that I couldn't got in the same pace that the rest of my co-students and friends from college, because I was having a full-time job while I was studying. It really dragged my years in college because of it. But then by the time I finished, I had a lot of experience because I was lucky enough to get a job in an architectural firm from the beginning, pure luck. Honestly, that I ended up there, but it was a merge between architecture and engineers too. So I got a lot of access to that connection and all that. And when I finished my bachelor's and master's, I knew I wanted the license back in the DR because it's two different experiences, my license in the DR from my license here. And I just want to touch base with the one in the DR because I feel that to me in the DR, I was like Rhonda. Like I just knew I wanted it. I wanted to call myself an architect. I wanted there was opportunities that came my way very soon after I finished college where side jobs were presented to me that I tried to bring to my my job, the company I was working for, and my boss didn't want the projects because it was not what they were doing. But he told me, but if you want to do it on your own time, be my guest. Like he didn't have any problem with me kind of moonlighting because it was projects that were not competition for him. So I did that. And at some point I really needed to, for me to do all that, I really needed to get my license there if I wanted to like do stuff on my own, right? It makes sense. And at some point, I started making enough money that I ended up quitting that job and just going on my own because I was doing much more on my own than what I was doing in my job that I had for 8 years. I stayed really long in that job. And again, if you think about it, I graduated from my high school when I was 15. I was really, really young. I started college when I was 16. So I was just, the baby all the time in the group. But the whole scene when I got out of college, I feel like I had enough experience because I was for so long in this company, and then opportunities came and all that happened. I got my license. I did the process back in the DR, and I had my business. Well, when I came to the United States in 2015, I had a lot of years already working on my own and doing my own scene. And I thought I could just translate that to the States after I got married with my husband. And then it was not reality. I hit a wall because my license was not valid, as we all know. And there was a long process to go through. And a lot of people around me, not a lot, everyone around me when I came to the States had no idea what the process was, what it meant for me to get licensed, if it was even possible. In the contrary, most of the people that will talk to me about it will kind of discourage me because they didn't know any better. They didn't know anybody who was foreign or immigrant like me that will have an architect license. And there was people, specific people that actually directly discouraged me and said, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You will spend, like, I know people that have been on these that study here, have been working here, and they don't have their license, so you don't need it. And it's like you're gonna spend 5-10 years whatever trying to get it. Like, what for? Those were some of the words that I was told, and I remember specifically that conversation with that one person. It really hit me. It really discouraged me. I remember coming back home and just crying and feeling so discouraged and defeated because I feel like, you know what? I spent so much time and effort back in the DR getting this degree and then my license and then building my business back there. And then I got in love with this handsome Marine guy and switched countries. And then all of that was kind of, it felt that day that I throw everything to the toilet because of love. And it was just really hard for me to digest that thought, because yes, I love my husband and the possibility of the family that we were going to have together in the life here. But I love being an architect. And I love calling myself an architect, and I love practicing on my own, which I was doing in the DR already. But that day, I felt that was not going to be possible because people told me it was impossible. And then I talked to somebody a couple of days after that was helping me with something. Her name was Diana. She passed away actually from cancer, and she was taking a drink and said, Gloria, what are you talking about? Like, you can't, just because this other person told you can't, like, you can't do that. Like, you have to try. Like, what are you going to lose if it doesn't happen? Then at least you try. But if you don't try, then you have 100% chances of not getting it. And I think that was my wake-up call. I went back home and I looked at my husband, Jeremy, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I don't care. It sounds crazy. It sounds hard. It might be a long process. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what I need to do, but I'm going to figure it out. And that was 2016 when I said that, and I was able to get a job in an architecture firm here to start reporting hours of AXP and all that. And I think it was IDP at that point. And then by 2019, I got my license. And I think I really went through a lot of hurdles because of the language barrier, just learning the even terms in English that I wasn't familiar with. Like I knew English, my English is still not perfect today, but it's very different talking on specific terms on a career base. Like, you know, like if I'm a doctor and I come from another country, there's going to be a lot of things that I won't know, and even if I can speak with you as a common, you know, conversation. Same applies to architecture and any other career. And there was just a lot of hurdles that I had to go through. But I think, to me, the reason why I really, really wanted to get this done was, I will say, two reasons. Is one, and I go with Denise's reason in that, is I wanted to call myself an architect. There was too much pride inside of this body to go through all the things that we all go through, to then at the end of the day not being able to say, hi, I am Gloria Clorer and I am an architect. I couldn't say that. And it really, really, really hurt me. It was just like, it was just twisting in my gut. Like I just needed to be able to introduce myself to people and say, I am an architect, which I couldn't do unless I had the license here. Then the other reason why was because I wanted to have options and freedom, which I think either the path for me was staying in that previous job that I had or not. I knew deep in my heart, I wanted to go back to get my business, because that was the original plan, coming to the States and transferring my business here and keep being a business owner. And then I saw reality that it was going to be really hard, that it's more scary. There's a lot of liability. It's not so easy. But with that said, so even if it was scary and new and very, very different from having a business in the DR, I wanted to be able to be the one choosing. I didn't want to feel that I couldn't do it because I was missing the stamp. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be able to say, well, you know what? I'm going to try it, or I'm not going to try it. I have the license, but it's my choice. If this actually doesn't look good because maybe the situation in the market is not good where I am, fine. I just going to stay with this job. This job is great. People are great. Benefits are great. Fine. But it was my choice, not my only option. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I've heard that from men and women. Why do I need to become licensed? You know, I'm never going to own my own business, or, you know, whatever it is. And I always go, yeah, but that's today. Who knows in 10, 15, 20 years, you know, you might need it. And then, oh my goodness, you got to start all over again. So I'm glad you said that, because it is so, so very true. Brooke?
And at the end, yeah, I ended up, as you know, opening my business, but again, it didn't mean that I couldn't choose.
And even if you don't own your business, you know, you still have, you know, power over what you are doing, what you're accomplishing, and what your skills are. Brooke, how about you tell us why you became licensed and a little bit about your path?
Okay. I got licensed in 2017, and I never considered not getting licensed. It was always, you know, why wouldn't you? My first job, I worked at a lighting design firm, and the head of the company was an AIA fellow, and he was just very adamant that school was the first step, and the second step was to get licensed. And if you stop short of that, then you're not finishing the process. And that stayed with me. So I took my first exam in 2013, and I think 3 weeks later I had my daughter, and she was kicking the table in the exam the whole time. And we had a lot of obstacles. My husband's a licensed architect too. We had a lot of obstacles between when we started taking our test and when we completed them. We had the baby, we bought our first house, our house flooded, and we spent 10 months rebuilding it. We lost my father-in-law to Parkinson's. Our daughter got diagnosed with something called Arnold-Chiari and had 2 brain surgeries at 3 years old. Life is going to happen. Obstacles are going to get in the way, but don't lose sight of the goal, and surround yourself with people that are going to build you up and encourage you and help you get to the goal. Don't listen to the negativity. We can always find that. Find the people that are going to encourage you. There's women on this call I've connected Shadia, who's going to speak next, with someone in my office to encourage her when she was
I have
testing.
that on my list to talk about.
And I've connected someone in my office with Gloria because she has a similar experience. She's licensed in a foreign country and she wants to be respected as a licensed architect in this country, but she needs to know how to do it. So drown out the noise. Don't buy into I can't do it. Life is going to happen. You owe it to yourself to get licensed, and as a woman, you really need to get licensed for people to respect you.
That's, your story is amazing. I don't think I had heard all of those details, so wow. Hats off to you, absolutely. And Shadia, last but not least, our newbie on the board.
The
of
newbie
license.
and the only one without kids. So hats off to you all, because I have no idea how a mother could go through licensure. It sounds terrific, but also hats off. Okay, my story is a little bit convoluted. I'm also an international in the call. I am originally from Panama. I moved to the States 10 years ago and had no idea that in order to be a licensed architect in this country, you had to go through this entire process. I thought it would be just like in Panama. You graduate college and you're good to go. And that wasn't the case, and I didn't know that till later on. But anyway, graduated school in 2018. And as an international student, you're not really sure if you're going to end up staying in the country or no. You have to go through different steps. So I kind of waited to be sure that I was actually going to stay here and, be invested in the process of becoming an architect. So once that was out of the way, I started taking the exams. I started taking the exams in 2019 in November, having no clue of what resources to use. I just went head straight and failed twice. So to the question, if I ever considered not becoming a licensed architect, after those two fails, I kind of did for a quick moment. I just felt very defeated. And I think the English being my second language also kind of came into my head and came into play. I started doubting like my capabilities. And then 2020 came and, COVID happened and I had some time to think about really what I wanted. And my birthday's in July and I get a birthday gift to myself every year. And I thought, what do I really want? What is the why? What do I really want? And I thought, I want to be a licensed architect. I don't care what's, what I have to do and what's going to take. And so my gift to myself was signing up for a program that would kind of help me align myself and give me the resources that I needed to get licensed. So I studied for 10 weeks straight. I don't recommend that to anybody. It was insane. I had no life. I literally went to work 40 plus hours and then I went home and I studied 30 hours a week. But I passed 4 tests in a row after that, and as soon as you pass a test, it kind of gives you a momentum. And during that process, I met 4 amazing females that became my study buddies throughout the next 3 years. And we all got licensed. I was the last one to get licensed. But after passing those 4 tests, I had a burnout period where I just kept failing. I failed the second to last test twice. And then the last test, I failed 5 times. And I'm going to rewind a little bit because I have this journal. I journal sometimes. And before I started the AREs, I wrote down questions to myself. And one of them, I'm going to read it. Why are you starting to pursue your architecture license now? And I wrote, and this makes me emotional, because I want to finish/achieve this end goal. 7 years of architecture school. To not be an architect is not what I signed up for. Sorry. I get emotional because it's been a long road. I'm an immigrant. I moved here 10 years ago, started my career from scratch because I did 2 years of architecture school in Panama and then 5 years again. Wow, I can't talk. Sorry. What I'm gonna say, finally got licensed in 2023. But I just want to say, surround yourself with people that are gonna empower you, are gonna lift you up, and are gonna keep you accountable, because honestly, no one can do it alone. It's just not a single, you know, you can do it alone. You have to have the support group. You have to have those people like Brooke. I also reached out to Gloria. I was feeling PPD. Group partnered me up with Pauline, a woman from her office that I never met. And that woman told me, Shadia, write your name down, Shadia Jaramillo, AIA, because you are gonna get licensed. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna get licensed no matter what. And I did, and that woman checked up on me every single Tuesday. And then the next try, I passed my test. I'm sorry for getting emotional, but for me, this was an investment of 12 years. 12 years of architecture school and moving here and all of that. And it just, you know, that was the end goal. And then after that, I felt like, oh man, I've been working so hard for this. Now what, you know? You're gonna pass through like a really weird period where you now need to align yourself and like find other goals. But yeah, just if you really want it, write your why and like just go for it. And don't forget that there's other people that just like someone's helping you, others are gonna need your help. So always give back. And yeah.
That's a beautiful story, Shadia, and never apologize for being emotional. We are all humans with emotions. Some
Yeah.
of us are a little more shy of sharing them, so but never apologize for that, because I think it's what makes us all unique individuals. And I have to say that I failed design 4 times.
Me 5.
4 or
6
5, I don't
six.
even want to remember. And I failed lateral structures 3 times. And back in my day, it's 70, you had needed a 75. I got a 74. Next year, I got a 73. Next year after that, I got a 72. The last year I said, I'm not studying anymore, because when I study, I think I know what I'm answering. I'm not going up, I'm going down. So I sat there and I said, well, you know, whatever. And I actually passed it. And so, you know, it's, we all have those stories that we, you know, as you say, I think you nailed it. Surround yourself with people that will encourage you. That person that told Gloria, you don't need it, why are you bothering? Those are the people you run away from, because they're not only gonna, you know, discourage you at whatever that is, they'll discourage you at anything you ask them about. So you really don't want to be associated with those people, because even if you ask, well, you know, should I paint my house blue? Well, you know, does your house really need to be painted? I mean, it's just, those are the people you don't want to be with, because they're kind of, you know, downers. So I think you nailed it. You know, make sure that you surround yourself with people that will encourage you, and you work in an office that encourages that. I love Brooke's story that her you know, boss says, you know, that's the next step, you know. And I'm constantly walking around the office asking people, so what's up? And they're like, oh, she's on the bandwagon, because I start going, oh, you're on my target. In fact, I have a sticky here for somebody I need to go chat about, because it's very important to be licensed. We have about 20 minutes, maybe, and I see a lot of beautiful comments on there. Maybe we take some questions or from.
Can I, Lord?
Absolutely, Rhonda. Please.
Yeah. What I want to everybody to pick up on, one of the young women that I ran into, one of her fear, or one of the reasons she was not seeking licensure, was she was afraid that she would not pass the test. So it was fear of failure. And it was right after our Women in Architecture Zoom, where I think it was the different Latino women that had come and become licensed here. And everybody opened up and was very honest about the times that they had failed the test. And I tried to explain to this woman that failing it was part of the process, that everybody, it is probably an exception to the rule that you pass it all at one time. But I think it's good that we all here can say that and share that, you know, it took me a couple times to get the one figured out, but it's all part of the process and you can do it. So don't let that stop you from signing up and getting ready and taking the exams.
I want to add something to that comment, Rhonda. So in my case, in the exams here in the States, I passed the first one, which was construction documents, I think was the first one I took, and I studied for it with a couple of suggested study materials people told me about. I had no idea what I was doing. It was it was like everything was so new to me, and I went and took the exam. I remember, like if it's today, that I got out of the exam thinking, what the heck was that? What just happened? It was so overwhelming and exhausting mentally, just oh my gosh. And a couple of weeks later, I got it was already electronic, so it wasn't like some of you I think got it like on mail. We got it in an email, but it had a pass. I had a pass. And I couldn't believe it. And I said, oh my gosh, I passed these. And I remember leaving the exam thinking I didn't even understand what happened in the exam. Like I was so confused. And I said, you know what? If I can't pass that, this is not that hard. I mean, I thought it was hard. This is not that hard. I got this. And I honestly think passing my first exam in the first try was the worst thing that happened to me in the whole process. Because I got so overconfident about this process that after that, as you might guess, this was my only exam I passed the first time. All the other ones I took several times. And I think every time I failed one exam, it was so humiliating and so just like so discouraging. I was like, wow, like I passed the first one. And then I studied so hard for this one and study again and study again. And I kept questioning myself. Maybe Shadia might know on this part, because I remember at some point I think we talked, and it's something where you start wondering. I said, "Am I?"
Think you're breaking.
Sorry, my internet kind of went off. But yeah, I start wondering: does God even wants me to be an architect? That was the type of deep questions I was asking myself, because I have self-doubt. And what I want to say on the exam and the failing, from what Rhonda was talking about, is after I got myself together and I found the correct support system, and I took the ARE bootcamp with Michael Risica and got all those Amber videos and the correct, and I finally understand what I was supposed to be studying. Because one of the things that were most disconcerting and just confusing was that people will tell me, oh, and I will kind of research, and these are the books I'm supposed to be reading, and I will read it and learn it. And then I will go to the exam and find a lot of questions that I had no idea where they were coming from. And I was just so confused. Like I studied so hard for like 2 months. And then I got all these questions that I didn't know where they were coming from. And what I discovered by getting around people that were studying, getting in those study group from AIA local and AIA Tampa Bay and the ARE bootcamp and all that kind of stuff, that support system was understanding that even if I was studying really, really hard, I wasn't necessarily studying the correct study materials for the specific exams I was taking. So as hard as I was studying, I was still going unprepared, like very, very unprepared to some of those exams. And that was the reason why I was failing. Because I was missing information. It wasn't because there was anything wrong with me, or that you know what I'm saying? Like it was just, I wasn't preparing myself because of the lack of knowledge of the process, and then that was reflecting on the failings. Well, what I learned in this process afterwards is the one thing that I struggled the most after, when I opened my business as an architect individually, is anything that was related in that first exam that I passed the first time. And I'll tell you why. Because I went and I studied for it and I took it, and it was just like such a fast track process that I don't think it really ingrained in my brain the way all the other exams did. Because I had to take it and retake it and study and study and study and dig so deep in order to be able to pass it, that it just hit really different in my brain. So my point with this is try to see it with a grain of salt, because yes, as much as it is really, really hard to fail and it hurts, I'm telling you, I got some of those exams results at 5 a.m. whenever NCAR will send the email, and I couldn't, sleep because it was always Thursdays. Thursday mornings at 5 a.m. I will get that email from NCAR with a pass or fail.
Now you don't have to wait.
And now you don't have to wait.
Immediate.
I don't know, that's
before,
almost as painful, because
it
if you
was
didn't pass, that's
yeah, it was antagonizing. I remember at 5 a.m. whenever I got a fail, just starting to bawling in the bed, and my poor husband waking up like, what happened? Oh, I failed, but my point is, now I'm thankful for my process, because as a business owner, I really know a lot of things I'm supposed to know. That I feel that if I would have been a better test taker, which that happens a lot too, you might be a very great test taker, it doesn't necessarily reflect the experience and the knowledge you actually have.
Yes.
So I personally am not really a good test taker just in general. But I think the fact that I wasn't forced me to really, really over prepare and over prepare, and then it has served me well now in my business. So try to see it in with a positive attitude, because yeah, you want to get done with it, just finish the process, finish your journey, get licensed. But when you pass it, it's gonna be because you really knew everything that you needed to know.
Can I add something really, really quick?
Of course, of course.
I was gonna say that I agree with Gloria, because even if you fail, like, you're still gonna continue to read and, get more knowledge and all of that. Ultimately, yes, it is to get licensed, but you're gonna use that knowledge in your workplace or wherever you are, you're gonna apply that. So it's really not a waste of time if you fail. You're just like expanding your knowledge as you go. And not to say that the people that get licensed like really fast, it's not a positive thing. Yeah, of course, you get that out of the way, but they might not be learning as much as someone that like sits down and takes the time to learn all the information. So just a thought.
I wanted to chime in, two things, and I've seen some of the comments in the chat. The first thing is, for me, I did not have a firm that was encouraging me to get licensed. They didn't care. So for me, it was something I had to do for myself, because I wasn't going to be there forever. And it's something that you have a choice, right? We want to have choices, and having your license is a big choice to apply to other jobs, even that sometimes can be a job requirement. So don't make it about the needs of others. It's your need. And I saw a comment about testing while having children. To me, it was I was testing while I was parenting a toddler, and that was a challenge, but I could not have done it without the support of my husband. So I was blessed that he was on board and supportive, but I think back, and I probably would have told him that if he wasn't, I would have just taken the kid and gone to my mom's house, because I really wanted to get this done and it was important for me. So yeah, he probably didn't think that he had a choice. But you have to commit to a schedule, and you commit to yourself, right? You're doing this for you, so you owe it to yourself. For me, I would put my baby to sleep and I studied every night from 8:30 to 10. That was my schedule. And that's what works. You have to find what works for you and get in a rhythm and get it done. But yes, a support system is important when you have children. So try to find that for yourself.
And it's
Debbie, I see you had your hand up. Debbie?
Yes, I just want those who are still studying or trying to start. It was different when we had pen and paper. We had one chance a year. So the beauty of it, you went through all the courses at once, and you knew automatically what you didn't know or what you still had to study for. So with the use of your firm, your mentors, your peers, you can focus on that and reflect back to what areas you need more exposure to, more experience with, and you won't have that fear going into the exam. So I think that was a different perspective as opposed to now you're focused on individual sections, but you still don't know what you don't know. You don't have the experience with. So I encourage everyone to go through possibly all the modules to see where you stand across the board. So on your day-to-day work life, you can see where you can work more on a project specific or a discipline specific. That would be more helpful. I can see that through our younger interns as they continue to study where they need more exposure with or without.
Particularly because we want to understand the exams now kind of tend to also ask
Exactly.
things throughout. Because now that they've reduced the 9 to whatever number it is,
Yeah.
that was a lot of data. So
It
where
adds
did
a
they
lot
put
of
that
data.
data? They gotta put it in somewhere. So I think, Debbie, you're right. If you kind of look at the whole thing, not just focus, I'm only gonna do this one.
Exactly.
But you gotta get you're right. Back in the day, you only took it once a year and you had to like look at the whole thing.
You're done. You
were
studied
done.
everything.
Right, and then next June, you had to do through that torture again, hopefully less of them, because you passed most of them.
Right.
And so I think that's a very good advice that for those who are working on it, make sure you look at all of the ones that are out there as a package, right? What does this cover? What do you know? And look at the modules and then kind of pick the one that maybe you're a little more comfortable with. And then, as you say, look at where your
Yes.
office
And
can
there's so
provide
many
you some of that.
resources. So as you know, some of you were talking about your peers. You have accountability through your partners. You can feel who else might need or struggling with a division. Say, hey, can we have these breakout sessions or look at these tools? There's so many opportunities out there available to everyone. Just want
And
to add
many
that.
of our local AAA components have study groups and emerging professionals, ARE,
Yeah,
they
some
go
of
up
the
and down the
associate
cycles,
directors.
sometimes they're very active for several years and then they lose something, but even if yours doesn't have it, well then, I'm sure there's plenty of people in your chapter that'll want help too, and you can, reinvigorate that one. So and then Florida always has a session and a convention, and Chadia?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, and also feel free to always reach out to people outside of architecture. All the consultants, all of them are always, and they're nice people, willing to help you. I remember when I was studying for the PPDs and PDDs, I reached out to the mechanical and electrical engineer that I feel closest to the most. And I took one of them to lunch. We spent an hour, I made a little PowerPoint of all the mechanical systems and all my questions, and he went through and explained it to me in a way that I could understand it, because as architects, we're not mechanical experts. So what better way to like reach out to the experts and have them
I did
explain
the
things.
same too. I consult with a structural and mechanical from my previous job. I do want to say something on regards the what Lourdes was saying. Now, I think from all the advice, the part of how important it is for us to really, really be around the people who are doing this too. It's we can't really like stress this enough, because even if you feel that you're better at studying on your own, which happens to a lot of us, you need the quiet to focus, but you need to force yourself to still make some room to be around other people studying for the exams. Because I feel like we need accountability, and most architects need deadlines too, to kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like what Denise said, like the second baby, she was like, you know what, this is going down. I need to get this done. And I feel like a lot of us, Lourdes always joke like, procrastination, da 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 da. But it is true. Like sometimes we just need the pressure of the deadline to do it. And I think when we are around people who are doing the same, we get that pressure in a good way. And I think from my case, from what I told about the one person that told me not to do it is, and I even mentioned this in my book, like sometimes when someone tells you that you can't do something, it usually comes from a place in their heart, their own experiences of based on their own limitations, not your limitations. It's their limitation talking, and you can make their limitation yours. What they can do is what they can do. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. So I think we need to keep that in mind too, that individually, how great can you be on your own besides whatever anyone else is saying. Like it doesn't matter what the noise around. If you say you want to do this, then you can't do it. Don't listen to the noise.
And
I was
it's-
reading, People Magazine, something that I do every so often. You have to do sort of the non-related to anything important. And it was an interview with the woman that's on the SUV, special victim, Mariska. I don't know how to say her last name. And she said that her mantra is, what would you do if you were not afraid? And I thought, wow, that is so on it, right? If you're not afraid of something, then you'll do it. So, what would you do if you were not afraid? So you got to get rid of, a little person in your background that says, no, you can't do this. And Gloria's right. It's their, lack of success of whatever that was that they're trying to come to you.
And it's okay to fail. This is a hard process. Licensure is a process. I failed my first two. I took the first one, I failed it. I retook it. I took the second one, I failed it, and I had to retake it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever if I have to take every one twice. And I was terrified when I took the third one that I was going to fail, and this is how it was going to go. And I passed the third one, and then I passed the fourth one, and it just took off. It's okay to fail. It's perfectly acceptable. I know a lot of people that have failed these exams. What's not okay is to give up. Don't give up. Think of that as a practice exam. You didn't do it. There's an opportunity to take it again. And I think we need to remove the stigma of failure is not okay. It's like, you didn't pass the test. You didn't fail. Don't give up. You didn't pass. Take it again. Move on. But
And if you were to poll every licensed architect out there, I bet you the number that passed it the first time is a whole lot lower than the number who had to take one more than once. So they're the minority, we're the majority, right? So those people are strange. How do you pass it the first time around, right? Those are weird people. Elizabeth Camargo, who's our president next year, I put in Philip Johnson failed design 5 times. So those of us who are a little bit
And
older
did he ever
remember
get
his-
licensed? I thought he didn't get
You
licensed.
know, you might be right about that. I'm not sure about that one.
Never be like him.
Yes.
You know what's funny from what Brooke was saying, and it reminded me of, I went to a conference. Shadia, you might have been in that. It was one of the young architects ones online. There was this person, I can't remember his name, but his presentation was something about be aware of the chair because he was like a marathon runner or something. Do you remember, Shadia? Okay. I just want to share this real quick because to me, sometimes we're so afraid of the failing the exams and all that. And I think we should be more afraid of stopping altogether. I think that's what the real danger is in this process. I think as long as you're going somehow, keep going, even if it's a very slow pace, a couple of minutes per day, maybe a couple of hours per week, you're still going. It's still step forward versus like backwards or just stopping altogether. I think stopping is the problem. He talked in his presentation, it was not related to, I will say it specifically to architecture because he was like making it like taking a marathon. But he said there was someone who told him something about being aware of the chair because when you're like in the marathon and you kind of make stops and you drink water and this or that, some of them will like sit in a chair, and if they do it for too long, it kind of like that's when then they can't get back to it. It's just too hard. And I think think about if you're like someone who works out and go to the gym or whatever, I think that applies to other things in life where like you're in the gym and you're working out and you're doing this and that, and then you stop. And the hardest part is going back on track. Starting again is really, really hard. And I think with the exams, that really, really applies. It's like be aware of the share. When you pass, it can be really, really hard to get back on track. So to me, one of the things to kind of keep in mind is even if the only thing you can do that day is going real quick and taking a quick quiz, those apps that have like 10-question quizzes, and that's all you could do for that day, that's totally fine. But do something. Don't stop for like 3-4 months because it's not impossible. It's not like you're not gonna go back. A lot of us experience that. A lot of people have experienced having to stop for whatever reason, being the caregiver in their family and something fell sick, or sickness themselves, health problems, whatever it is, work, job, kids, whatever. But reality is when you stop, it makes it so much more harder to go back to it, get back on track. So I think, again, keep that little sentence in mind. Be aware of the share. Be aware of the share. If you sit and stop, it's going to be really hard to get back on track.
Absolutely, you have a good point. And I know everybody's time, we would probably could talk hours on this, but I know everybody has busy schedules and we don't want to say, oh, I can't call in those Zoom meetings because they take too long. So, but I know there's a couple of commentaries in the questions about how to stay connected to this group. We have a base camp, and if you're not on it, I know Becky said she's going to invite everybody. There's Becky, who's on the call to join, and this is where we post, you know, I will post a little slideshow that has the numbers, the recordings, and all those kind of things so that, you know, there's the connection. Obviously, you can email any one of us. If you
Yes,
don't know
please
how to get
do.
a hold of us, you can, AA Florida can certainly find us, because we're more than happy to be your cheerleaders, your support group, whatever it is that is out there. So with that, obviously, I will welcome all of you to join us February 21st for our presentation with Diane Jacobs. Anybody who knows Mickey Jacob, she is his better half, and she's great in mentorship and leadership, so it should be a very, very exciting event on the 21st at noon. And then, of course, Palm Beach has their wonderful Women in Conference. It's a Saturday day, so it's perfect. On March 9th, please log in if you don't know how to get it. I'm sure you can email Palm Beach or Becky, and she'll get you the information. And so thank you so much, everybody. This has been very inspiring. I learned a lot of things, and I know the panelists well, so there was things I didn't know about them. So this is all part of what this is. You know, we share, we support each other. We make sure that we increase the number of licensed women out there, because obviously the numbers I give you is NCARB people that are being licensed. It doesn't count people like me who don't have an NCARB folder, because I haven't needed one in a while. So I used to have one. So we need to make sure that we have 50% of licensed architects be women, not 25%, whatever the number is at the moment, which is still in the 20s. So please, all of you who are ready to be licensed and study, go for it. Ask any of us to help you. If you're already licensed, please make sure you encourage somebody to be licensed. Let's increase our number of licensed women in the state of Florida and in the country. And with that, I thank you for attending. I only passed it by 3 minutes, so I didn't do too bad. Again, next month, February 21st, March 9th, Women in Architecture in Palm Beach. So I look forward to seeing all of you in the next few weeks. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Our panelists were fantastic. So, wow.
Thank you
I
for
thought I
having
had
us.
hard. I didn't have any kids. I didn't come from another country to study. I was already here. So you guys have all, great stories.
Thank you,
so much.
everybody, for tuning in.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Lourdes and everyone.